This is the Transition Scout, and this is my brief review of this bike by video. I will tell you that I had never heard of this brand until about a week ago when I called a shop out here in Grand Junction, Colorado, or actually in Fruita, to reserve a rental bike, and they said, hey, we got this new bike, we're going to set you up with it. So this is literally a brand new bicycle. I'm the first person they've ever rented it to. It had done 2 miles before they gave it to me. Let's just go through it front to back really quickly. You can see that it's stocked with the RockShox Pike RCT 3 fork. Actually, I think this looks like it might be a Sector. I will say that this fork that's on it is not as nice as the Pike. It's got the Sector, and certainly not as nice as some of the higher end Pikes, but it gets the job done. I do wish that maybe it was a little bit more active and gave a little more support on the bigger hits, but it does the job. Moving up, you can see that we've got the control here for the dropper post, which is a KS Lev. There's really not much more to say to that. That's the top of the line dropper post and pretty sweet. This particular bike is stocked with just standard Shimano brakes. I believe that if you actually buy the bike rather than the rental demo version, it's got Deore XT brakes, which would be quite an improvement over these. These certainly get the job done. They're strong enough for one finger braking, but there's quite a bit of fade on even short to medium like descents. Moving back, you can see you've got the Monarch RT shock. That's a really sweet shock. I think I've ridden this shock before, but I would say that it is very active, plush, supportive under full open, and when you press it into Pro Pedal, which is fairly easy to do right here, it's still quite active when you want it to be, but really gives quite a bit of support for pedaling, and on climbs you really don't feel the pedal bob at all. I think they have a little bit of anti-squat built in with their suspension system, and the fork complements that quite well. Moving back further, you can see they have it set up with a 1x right there with the SRAM GX derailleur, which seems to do just a fantastic job. Easy shifting, quite quick shifting, precise shifting. I've been very pleased with this. And moving on to the overall feel of the bike, instead of the components, I've been quite pleased with it. It's 650B, and it's quite nice to ride. It's really a good wheel size, especially out here in the West, as opposed to New England, where we have so many more roots and rocks. Here it's so much smoother riding. It gives quite a bit of travel, 140 in the front and 125 in the rear. And it's interesting, the mismatch in the different travel lengths, but it really seems to work. It gives you quite a bit of travel in the front, and the back is just enough to allow for some of the bigger hits. The weight balance on the bike is maybe a little bit more forward than I would like it. With its long front center, I would have expected it to be a little more back, and this really short stem, I would have expected it to be more back as well, but it certainly does a decent job. It's still quite comfortable. It's not quite the enduro bike, if that's what you're looking for. It likes to climb a little bit more than your typical enduro bike, and is not quite as aggressive on the descents, but gives you a nice sort of trail feeling, and does a decent job with your front weight balance. Like I said, I wish it was just a little bit more posterior. As far as climbing, I really didn't feel any pedal bob at all. That was great. Cornering, it likes to corner quite well. The cornering is strong, precise, and reliable. I know exactly where it's going to point. It feels really comfortable in the air. Taking a little bit of air here and there, it feels really good, and definitely is comfortable in the air, balanced, lands well. Braking does a great job, and overall it's a fun bike. Last thing I would say about the tires, it's got knobby nicks. It's a pretty standard tire. I will say that these are not knobby nicks. I believe if you buy it, it comes with knobby nicks. This has some Maxxis high roller 2s, and those flatted out already once and were darn near impossible to get back on. It took me and a friend working together to get those back on the wheels, so that was a little bit of a disappointment, but that's sort of the nature of a brand new tire. If you're looking for a good trail bike that's playful, is not too far down the enduro spectrum, but also not too far up the cross-country spectrum, this is certainly worth checking out. It's also nice being from a small brand, although that does mean that if you need to get it serviced, you may have to go to specialty shops. Let me know what you think, and I hope you enjoy this review.